Tonight on To The Point, is your data safe?
The genetic testing company 23andMe files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, how you can delete your data and protect your privacy.
Plus, new legislation aiming to stop higher taxes on cannabis.
California should lead on cannabis. More and more taxes at a time like this is not leading.
When changes could take effect. Governor Newsom's podcast creating controversy with his list of guests. What political experts believe his goals are. And federal spending cuts taking a bite out of the fishing industry. Why you might see higher prices at the store.
Good evening. Thank you so much for starting your week with us. On To The Point, I'm Alex Bell. Genetic testing company 23andMe has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Its co-founder and CEO has also resigned, as the company has announced that it will look to sell, quote, substantially all of its assets. But what does this all mean for your data? ABC 10's Becca Habegger explains how you can protect yourself.
More than 15 million people worldwide have submitted their DNA to the genetic testing company 23andMe, looking to learn about their ancestry, piece together their family tree, and test for genetic markers. But now, with the company going bankrupt, many are wondering what this means for data. The company says protections are unchanged, but
On Friday, California Attorney General Rob Bonta issued a warning telling people how to protect their privacy and delete their data from the 23andMe app. I'm going to show you how to do it. First of all, let's talk permissions. There are some things you maybe opted into when you first signed up for 23andMe that you want to revoke permissions for now. For example, asking 23andMe to store your saliva sample. You can go on here and tell them to destroy your sample. Go to the settings section of your profile. Here it says your samples are being stored. You can go ahead and click discard samples. You can also look at all the things you opted into before, and you can go ahead and opt out of them. Like whether you allowed 23andMe to use your data for third-party research. Here it says you have given consent. You can go ahead and revoke that consent. You might have to scroll through some text. You can go ahead and read that, but then you're changing your permission to say that you do not give consent. Always make sure you're hitting submit. You should see some confirmation saying that you no longer give permission. Depending on whether you're doing it on your phone or on a laptop or desktop computer, it might look a little different. And then when it comes to permanently deleting your data, scroll down to where it says 23andMe data. Go to your delete your data section. This step actually took the longest. It appears there's a lot of folks on the system right now bogging it down. But once the delete your data screen does pop up, it allows you to decide whether to download copies of some of your data, which you might want to do. You might want a hard copy of that genetic information that, after all, you paid for or perhaps was gifted to you, and you can go ahead and do that there. But once you have downloaded or backed up any information that you want to keep, you can go ahead and permanently delete your data. You scroll all the way down, you'll find at the bottom, permanently delete data. Select that, and then you'll get an email from 23andMe. Now, this is very important. 23andMe says they won't permanently delete your data until you follow through on that email and confirm that you want to do it. So make sure you're checking your inbox and following through so you can rest assured your data and your privacy are as protected as possible. Now, keep in mind, some of what we're talking about might only apply to California consumers based on California privacy laws. So it might look a little different on your consent or opting in, opting out, depending on what state you live in.
we asked 23andMe for an interview about what they plan on doing with customers' data, but they just pointed us back to their news releases saying we will seek to find a partner who shares our commitment to customer data privacy, and any buyer will be required to comply with applicable law with respect to the treatment of customer data, and any transaction will be subject to customary regulatory approvals. They add 23andMe is still open for business, orders and subscriptions will continue as normal, and any purchases or genetic testing kits sent in for processing will be handled without disruption. Becca Habegger, ABC 10.
And we also want to note that last year, 23andMe agreed to pay a $30 million settlement in a class action lawsuit related to a 2023 data breach. It is also important to note that 23andMe treats deleting your data as an account closure. According to the confirmation email received when one of our colleagues requested to delete their data, once a customer does so, they will no longer be able to access their 23andMe account. A new bill in the legislature aims to repeal an increase on California's cannabis excise tax. The state collected more than $593 million of cannabis excise tax last year, according to the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. AB 564 would block the current retail tax of 15% from increasing. The tax is subject to change beginning July 1st. Assemblymember Matt Haney, who authored the bill, says a tax increase would force small businesses to close and drive consumers toward the illicit market.
It's not a sustainable approach if we really want this industry to thrive and for the revenue that's going to come for it for our state if we keep on putting more and more taxes at a time right now where these businesses in this industry are really just trying to find a way to compete with an environment that is not fair to them, where the illegal illicit market is still growing. This is not the time to put a 25% tax increase on this industry.
Opponents of the bill and cannabis tax cuts include the Public Health Institute, Youth Forward, and the Resource Legacy Fund. If the bill passes, it would take effect immediately as a tax levy. Assembly Republican leader James Gallagher has introduced a resolution calling for a federal audit of California's Medi-Cal program. Gallagher argues that the expansion of Medi-Cal benefits to all low-income adults has become unsustainable. As we reported last week, the program is facing a $6.2 billion shortfall, forcing the state to borrow money from the general fund just to stay afloat. Gallagher says the program's costs are putting patient care and other state services at risk. The resolution calls on the federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to conduct an audit to address these financial challenges. This month, the governor rolled out his new podcast called This is Gavin Newsom. The show has stirred a lot of controversy in Newsom's own party as it debuted with a series of provocative interviews with conservative guests. ABC 10's Luke Cleary spoke to a political analyst to find out what Newsom is up to and why now.
Immediately, no BS, thought about you.
Sharing the mic with right-wing figures such as Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon, this is Governor Gavin Newsom's new podcast.
What is he up to and why now?
Political analyst Steve Swat with the question on the minds of Newsom's fellow Democrats, many of whom have been critical of this new endeavor. On the show, Newsom has said he's opposed to what he called woke culture, the use of terms Latinx, and that allowing transgender women and girls to compete in female sports is, quote, deeply unfair.
Newsom has not only had these right-wing firebrands on his program, but has verbally agreed with them on a number of issues. So a lot of Democrats are confused. What's going on here?
We need to change the conversation.
One theory is that Newsom is raising his national profile ahead of a potential 2028 presidential run and attempting to make his positions more moderate.
Right now, it seems like Newsom would be running a little bit to the right, and that is angering a number of Democrats. But you have to remember that the political landscape has changed over the last election, and there are a number of Democrats who believe that the old very liberal policies just won't work anymore.
There's another theory, too, Swat says, put forward by Republican political strategist Mike Madrid, that Newsom is setting himself up for a media career after leaving office as governor.
And these podcasts are big business now, and the media landscape has changed dramatically over the last few years, and he wants to be in on it.
We've seen it over and over. It's an old playbook.
Whether it's political or business ambition, Newsom's podcast is sure to continue making waves. In Sacramento, Luke Clary, ABC 10.
Coming up onto the point, the legal showdown over deportations and presidential powers. What a judge just ruled over the Trump administration's actions.
Today was the warmest day of the year so far. Tomorrow's likely to be even a touch warmer than that, but the pattern changes by midweek forecast after the break.
Plus, how cuts to federal spending in Washington are now taking a toll on the fishing industry. Welcome back. This is a live look over Golden One Center tonight. You see there, Kings fans are already starting to pack the stadium. The Kings will be taking on the Boston Celtics at home tonight. Tip-off starting at 7 o'clock, and it was an absolutely beautiful day outside. Nice, warm, beautiful temperatures. We're going to see that for tomorrow?
Yeah, one more day of this, and the pattern changes. I mean, it's spring. We go up and down. Temperature never stays the same, except in summer when it seems like every day is 95 or hotter. But we're not there yet. Today is 82 downtown, 79 Sacramento Executive, 82 in Stockton, 82 in Modesto as well. For all of these cities, it was the warmest day of the year so far. So again, 82, hottest we've been in Sacramento since October 23rd of last year, easily beating the previous warmest day of just yesterday, which was 77 degrees. So first 80-degree day is now in the books across Northern California. 78 right now in Sacramento, 79 in Elk Grove, 78 Stockton, 82 Manteca, 80 in Modesto, 80 in Vacaville, 78 in Fairfield, 80 up in Colusa, 73 in Jackson, currently 72 in Auburn, 66 in Truckee, 58 in South Lake Tahoe. In the valley, we'll be dropping through the 70s as we go through the next hour or two, and then 60s are on deck for the rest of the evening. It does look to be a clear, or at least mostly clear, overnight period. And if we're getting up early on Tuesday morning, it'll be mild as well. We're going to be starting off in those low 50s across the valley, 50s in the foothills as well, 30s up in the high country. Again, mild and clear overnight. Tomorrow afternoon, it'll be the warmest day so far. I'm expecting even a couple degrees warmer across much of the valley. I've got 85 tomorrow in Vacaville, 84 in Fairfield, 84 in Sacramento, Elk Grove and Stockton, 86 in Manteca on Tuesday afternoon, 86 Tracy, 85 in Modesto, 80s for the most part in the foothills as well, almost 70 in Truckee on Tuesday, mid-60s up in South Lake Tahoe, mostly clear skies as well. The average high is 69 degrees. We're talking about mid-80s. We're about 15 degrees warmer than average for the time of year as high pressure sits overhead, but this pattern changes by the time we get to the middle and end of this week. That high pressure moves out. Cooler temperatures are coming back. We're also going to start to see some rain chances as well. Tomorrow afternoon, again, mostly clear skies. Wednesday morning, just some pretty thick marine layer expected, maybe some coastal drizzle. But then the next system pushes in. It is going to bring us maybe some very scattered showers overnight Wednesday into Thursday. But for the most part, most of that activity is going to be well to our north with not that much expected here in the capital region. But certainly the drop in temperature is noticeable as we look at the 10-day forecast. The record high tomorrow, 86. Likely we don't get there, but do notice temperatures were back in the 60s for the last few days of March and first few days of April, Alex.
All right, Brendan, thank you. Next, on to the point, new details in the growing showdown between President Donald Trump and federal judges over migrant flights sent out of the United States, and why spending cuts in Washington could lead to possible delays to fishing season.
Free ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app has so much to offer. Get your news live and on demand 24/7 so you can watch the news when you want. There's breaking news, extended forecast, and so much more. We have everything you need to get through your day and ready for the weekend. We've got you covered on money-saving tips, travel, entertainment, and sports. Download the free ABC 10 Plus app on your smart TV and popular streaming devices like Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and more. ABC 10. We stand for you 24/7.
Today, the showdown escalates between President Donald Trump and federal courts surrounding hundreds of Venezuelan migrants deported from the U.S. And it comes as another flight carrying around 200 people arrived in Venezuela overnight. Nicole D'Antonio has the details.
President Trump today refusing to back down on deportations.
We're getting the bad ones out first, and we're taking them out. And there's some really bad ones.
But today, federal judge James Boasberg ruled hundreds of Venezuelan migrants deported last week were denied due process. ABC's Karen Travers questioned the president about that on Friday.
Mr. President, do you think you have the authority, the power to round up people, deport them, and then you're under no obligation to a court to show the evidence against them?
Well, that's what the law says, and that's what our country needs.
In his ruling on the migrants today, Judge Boasberg said President Trump's unprecedented use of the Alien Enemies Act does not remove the government's responsibility to ensure the men could contest their designation as alleged gang members, as the White House maintains, without providing any proof. The administration went ahead with the deportations despite the judge's initial ruling to turn the planes carrying them around. The judge adding that the men were harmed by their removal to an El Salvadorian prison where they faced torture, beatings, and even death. Even before today's ruling, the Trump administration asking an appeals court to step in, as the president questions the impartiality of Boasberg. The ACLU reacting after today's appeals court hearing.
What we try to emphasize is that this is an unprecedented illegal use of the Alien Enemies Act, but not just that, they're not giving people a chance to show that they're not even members of the gang.
Early this morning, another 200 Venezuelan nationals were deported by the Trump administration, arriving overnight in the capital of Caracas. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem set to visit the notorious prison in El Salvador that the U.S. is paying to hold the Venezuelan immigrants.
We're making sure that there's consequences for being here and committing crimes in our communities.
Today, as the appeals court heard arguments in President Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act, two of the judges appeared to agree on one thing. The president's actions have brought the court into unprecedented territory. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.
House Speaker Mike Johnson says Congress may soon try to limit the scope of judges who rule against President Donald Trump. While speaking to reporters today, Johnson argued that one judge should not be able to suspend or uphold what a president does.
Everything is on the table. Impeachment is an extraordinary measure. We're looking at all the alternatives that we have to address this problem. Activist judges are a serious threat to our system.
Johnson says the House will hold hearings to look into the potential abuses of federal judges. He says lawmakers may wind up questioning some of these judges. Second Lady Usha Vance is scheduled to visit Greenland this week. The trip is causing a lot of controversy as Greenland's prime minister is speaking out against it. Vance says that she'll be part of a U.S. delegation visiting historic sites and learning about Greenlandic heritage. The visit comes after President Trump suggested buying the mineral-rich country.
It's important from the standpoint of international security. And if you look at the ships outside of Greenland, you have Russia, you have China, you have lots of different people and lots of different places, and it cannot go on the way it is.
A local newspaper, Greenland's prime minister slammed the visit, calling it a clear provocation, saying, quote, the very aggressive American pressure against the Greenlandic community is now so serious. We are now at a level where it can in no way be characterized as a harmless visit from a politician's wife. Democrats have called Trump's Greenland ambitions insane, but some Republicans have defended it. Spending cuts made to federal programs in Washington could be taking a bite out of the fishing industry. Reporter Andrew Dimbert explains tonight.
A freeze on regulations and cuts to federal spending in Washington appear to be taking a toll on an industry we haven't heard much about recently, the fishing industry.
The fishery stakeholders across the U.S. have lost a voice. We've lost our access to the agency that governs our livelihoods for commercial fishermen.
From the Atlantic to Alaska, fishermen say they rely on NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, to manage coastal fisheries, affecting how and where they do business. The agency sets quotas and helps determine the start and close of fishing seasons.
We follow the weather closely, and then the work with stock assessments affects our fishery in quotas and in bag limits on an annual basis. The work that they do regulates our industry in that what we can and cannot fish for, what times of year, how many we can take.
More than 160 NOAA employees dealing with fisheries were reportedly fired last month. Industry experts tell Reuters the changes in Washington have raised the risk of delaying the start of the fishing season for some East Coast cod and haddock fleets. They say it's also allowed for the overfishing of bluefin tuna off North Carolina, which could mean reduced quotas for fishermen in New York and New England, where the fish migrate north this summer, potentially driving up prices. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News.
All right, Andrew, thank you. Coming up tomorrow on To The Point, we take you inside the California Republican Party's spring convention, the first statewide gathering since President Donald Trump took office. Beyond the speeches and celebrations, key decisions were made, including the election of a new party chair. We sat down with newly elected chairwoman Corinne Rankin to hear what she plans to accomplish in her new role.
The most important thing to me is electing Republicans to our state legislative bodies. That's one of the things that is so near and dear to my heart. It's what drives me every day. I do believe that we need more Republicans in the Capitol. We need to bring balance.
Big changes, bold voices, and a battle for the future of the GOP. That's tomorrow on To The Point. We sit down with both the incoming and outgoing chairwoman to discuss the party's next moves, Newsom's new podcast, and key priorities for the year ahead. Plus, meet the Republican delegates and voters calling for a new direction in California. Next on To The Point, a downtown Sacramento staple closing its doors for good. What's next for this prime location? After more than 6 decades as a downtown Sacramento landmark, Macy's has closed its doors for good. Once a cornerstone of the city's retail scene, the departure leaves behind both memories and questions about what comes next for this prime location. Sanjay Varshney is a finance professor at Sac State and founder of Golden Stone Wealth Management. He says a creative developer could take advantage of the opportunity.
That's where we have to do a lot more soul searching, because clearly retail has not done well in that area. There's money that can be made, and with the right people, with the right talent, with the right thinking, it can be done.
The property is owned by Macy's. The company told us they would be in touch when they had something to share. The city of Sacramento says it has not received any proposals on the site. Of course, we'll be working to keep you updated on that. As always, thank you so much for watching and for inviting us into your home. If you have something that you think that we should be looking into, don't hesitate to reach out to me and the team. You can always email us at tothepoint@abc10.com. To the Point does not end here. You can always watch the stories featured on our show. Just download the free ABC 10 Plus streaming app straight to your TV. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow.